Hello, everybody. This is Mr. C here. Just wanted to give you another resource for doing this IXL assignment. So this problem was taken from IXL S.10, where we're creating equations from a table. So let's get started. It tells us to write the linear equation that gives the rule for this table, and we want our answer with f of x first. Now, typically, we let y equal f of x. This way we can just think about it in terms of another variable. What this is saying is that we have a function f of the variable x. So I won't be using f of x until the very end, where we can just rewrite y as f of x. But we want this bit first, right? We want y first. So what that tells us is we want a y equals equation, and it's a linear equation. And in general, when we have y equals a linear equation, what we're dealing with here is slope-intercept form, where m is the slope and b is the y-intercept. So a quick review. Slope is the amount that we're changing each time, right? So for every change in x, we have a constant change in y. And this the y-intercept refers to where the graph, where the line meets the y-axis. In other words, it's where x equals 0. This problem's kind of difficult because they don't tell us the y-intercept, right? They don't have x equals 0, and they don't give us the y value for when x equals 0. So we need to find both these things. We need to find the slope, we need to find the y-intercept. Then we just plug them in, and we'll have our answer. Big note here, find the slope first. Once we find the slope, we can work backwards to find the y-intercept, and we'll see what I mean there. So to find the slope, we look at the change in the x and the change in the y. So here we're changing each time by the same amount. We're changing by 1. We're going up 1. And here, if you notice, we're also changing by a constant amount. 12 plus what equals 21? Well, that's plus 9. 21 plus 30 equals, or 21 up to 30 is another 9, and then 30 up to 39 is another 9. So our slope is the change in y over the change in x. So our slope m is the change in y over the change in x. And in this case, positive 9 divided by positive 1 just gives us 9. Hooray, we found the slope. Part 2, we got to find the y-intercept now. There are two ways to do this. The first way is to just use the table and work backwards. So let's see that. So if I have x and y, it tells us that we have 3, 12, and 4, 21. And then there's some more, but that's okay. We don't need them all. Let's work our way backwards till we hit x equals 0, because the y-intercept is the y value when x equals 0. So before we were increasing our x by 1 every time, and that corresponded to an increase of 9 in our y's. This time we're decreasing by 1. We're doing the opposite, right? We were adding 1 each time. Now we're decreasing by 1, but the pattern should remain the same. So instead of adding 1 to get to the next one, we decrease by 9. Oops. So 12 minus 9, that's 3. That's going to be our value for x equals 2. When we plug in x equals 2 to whatever equation we end up getting, we should get 3. We follow this pattern backwards again. 3 minus 9 is negative 6. All right, but that's for x equals 1. We want x equals 0. So this is the last time we'll have to do it. Negative 6 minus 9 gives us negative 15. And this value here is our y-intercept, because by definition, again, the y-intercept is the y value when we plug in x equals 0. Okay, the last step here is to write the equation. So we have y equals mx plus b. We found our m was 9. We found our b was the y-intercept, or negative 15. So we have y equals 9x minus 15, but it wants it as f of x, right? But we said before y was equal to f of x, so we just replace the y with an f of x. And this will be your answer. To do this second part, there is another way if you want to use a more algebraic approach. So we could plug in m equals 9 into our slope-intercept form, right? We have y equals 9x plus some b. And we can actually find b by picking any one of the points they give us and plugging it in for x and y. So let's say, well, they gave us 3, 12. So we can plug in y equals 12 and x equals 3. So all I did here was plug in a point, right? The x coordinate was 3, that's why I replace it here. The y coordinate was 12, that's why I replace it here. And now if we solve for b, we'll get the y-intercept without having to work backwards like we did before. So 3 times 9 is 27. And we still want to solve for b. How do we do that? We got to subtract 27 from both sides to get b by itself. So we get b alone on this side. That's good. That's what we want. And 12 minus 27 is, surprise, surprise, negative 15. So it's the same exact answer, just a different process to get there. If you're more comfortable this way, that's totally fine. I hope this was helpful, and I will see you in class.